with the deadline approaching, with the Blackhawks trade Patrick Kane. Also, we got a new spark for the Chicago Bulls right off the All-Star break. And we have a quick White Sox recap with a Chicago Cubs recap and Bears off-season predictions. All right, let's go. Welcome to Shoot Your Shot Sports Talk. I'm your host, Richard Chicago. You can find me here at Richard Chicago on Twitter. We got a lot to talk about today. Let's get right into it. The Cubs, they started off the spring training season at the moment. Willson Contreras was in the news earlier today or this past weekend, and he was saying that basically that the Cardinals are a better organization than the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, this for me. I like this better. It's better organization. We all almost like old school way, which I love it. And that's something that I really like it. I already talked to the manager about it, like how was the culture here, and everything since I got here is being everything just one way, the Cardinal way. And I have to adjust it. So it's not that hard. I mean, do everything right and respect each other. That's it.
And that kind of sucks as a fan because, you know, like throughout the years, you go to love like your fan favorites and all that. And I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks that you say that. So now we can't root for Willson Contreras anymore. That kind of sucks. But whatever. The Cubs are off to a great start. They won 2 out of their last 3. Today, we're recording on Monday. They had lost against the Guardians by a big amount, but haven't been really watching. So it's just been like a up and down type of like season at the moment, but opening day soon. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Let's kick it over to Nick, talk about the White Sox.
Glad to be back. Yeah, just ultimately just excited. Yeah. Excuse me. Spring training's back underway. So nothing all too crazy. Just chilling on that here, XFL game here and there, but otherwise just prepping up for some good White Sox baseball. That's about it over here.
Nice. So I know it's only been a couple days for spring training. What's the report on the Sox? What's been going on?
Like I just said, spring training underway right now. The distractions off the field should be declining. Except for one story I could touch upon really quick. Tim Anderson's kind of blaming Chuck Garfien for fans' pessimistic outlook. Something I kind of touched upon last week in the episode or in episode number 1. It's kind of an L take on my end for Timmy. I don't know one person that really has a negative thing to say about Chuck Garfien. For those who don't know, he kind of does the post-game, pre-game show for the White Sox on the Comcast Sportsnet, or if it's still called that or whatever. But he does the post-game show, pre-game show. He's just a constant professional, no matter whether the Sox are winning or losing. But then again, he's got a little bit of hometown bias, of course, like all guys that are prepping for their team and want you to get excited about the team and whatever. They're going to have their little insight, but he's going to tip their cap to the opposing players if they have a good game or if they're just red hot. So he's very, 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 he keeps it down the middle. He's very entertaining. Nothing really too crazy out of Chuck Garfien. If anything, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but Ozzie Guillen's probably on the negative outlook side of things. I guess, that could also be misinterpreted or misrepresented as passion in some sort of things. But, don't get me wrong. I love me some Ozzie Guillen, but he's a realist like most of us. And they should be. Just if the team is screwing up and if he just doesn't like it, he's not going to stray away from telling you how he feels, how he truly feels on that particular day. So can't get it wrong on either end. But, getting back to Chuck, I don't really know that you don't get the reaction of, oh, great, here comes Chuck when they shoot to him for an interview or anything like that. So I can go on him more and more, but if you wanted like a last representation or comparison, he's kind of like Ernie Johnson for those who just like watch more on the basketball side of things. He's just clean cut down the middle, respected because he knows the game and he's just all around a nice guy. So I don't know. Again, L take from Tim Anderson on that sense. Yeah, if he'd wish to prove Chuck wrong, or the fans that feel or share the same, if you that think he feels that way, I have a quick solution. Go out and win games. Winning solves all problems. It'll solve all issues. So right then and there. So that seems pretty good. I guess that was a nice transition to today's game. I mean, I suppose we can touch upon a few of them. As we were recording this little session on a Monday, White Sox went ahead, got the first one of the spring training. Big one, 10-1, 15 hits for the good guys. Jake Berger had a solid outing, hitting just a monster blast to straightaway center, hitting it right off the batter side. That was a pretty good one. I would hope that I hope that he finds a roster spot. I don't know, kind of a lot of holes on the right White Sox roster that I thought may have been there are kind of closing, with Elvis Andrews potentially playing second base. Tim Anderson's going to obviously lock up shortstop, Moncada at third, and most likely an everyday Vaughn at first base. The only question marks are really who's going to get right field, probably a mixture of Eloy and Sheets, and then they're in mixed match in the DH, Luis Robert at center, and then of course Benintendi out and left. Mismatch of that, probably see Leori, probably see some Romy Gonzalez has been getting some good play. So just a couple names that have been flowing it around, but I don't want to get too much into like what you're going to see at bat wise, considering that a lot of the key names, they're going to be heading off to the World Baseball Classic in a few, and I actually don't know exactly when that is, but they're going to be shipping off in a little bit. I can only hope that that doesn't really affect them getting used to the pitch timer. And again, that seems to be an issue. I'll touch upon that in a little bit, but yeah, like I said, getting to them, White Sox had a slow first two games. The offense was not really existent. I think Gavin Sheets and Jake Berger hit 2 solo shots in the first game. That was all the offense right there. And then no runs, nothing really going on in the second game. Made up for it in the third, so that's pretty nice. Just nice to see some pretty consistent play right there. And then, like I said, overall, I think the best part was that this game ended in 2 hours and 37 minutes. And I think that's, again, a nice little way to get into this talk about the pitch timer. I'm just gonna get to it. I'll dish my thoughts, my 2 cents on it, because everyone else is going to. I love it. I think this is great. Whether we've seen it on this little small sample scale of games so far right now, or we've seen the whole season in the minors, the stats that go for it, and I'm enjoying it. I don't mind. So these games are flying by, and it's not like the offense or the excitement of the game is suffering because of it. We're averaging like 2 hours, 30 minutes on a game. I don't know. Anyone that argues that that's a detriment, I would say the complete opposite. Now it's exactly what we want. You blink, or if you're looking at your phone, you're talking too much, or if you go get a hot dog, you're going to miss something in this game. The narrow-minded thinking that the professional athletes, they're not going to get well adjusted to this timer. It gets exactly that. It's just ridiculous. I don't know. You might like this. Your boy Theo Epstein, big Cub guy,
Yeah.
a few weeks ago shared that this season, the sample size from last year in the minors, it took him about a month to get used to this. And over the course, I would think over 162 games, and then 10 post-game seasons. And then if they're really in this bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, game 7 of the World Series scenario where it ends on a pitching violation, I think that's a 1 in a billion chance that everyone's coming up with. So it's kind of ridiculous. Stats from the minors are showing no major indication that it favors pitchers over hitters or hitters over pitchers. Truthfully, the stats are just completely unaffected in either way. It's really bothering just the superstitious players, I would think, that just need to readjust their batting gloves after every pitch, or need to lick their bat like Yasiel Puig would do. So I speed it up. There's no need for stuff like that. The MLB is saving you 15 to 25 minutes per game over the course of a season. I don't know if you're probably not going to watch every single game, but that's going to save you 40 to 65 hours on the season. That thing's pretty awesome. Gives you enough time to hang out with your family, or get a new hobby, or for the fans that are complaining too much, study up on facts, stats, and gameplay, so you don't have such a silly take on this pitch timer. So, ultimately it's going to fade in the background, and it'll still be a part of the game, but people are just going to be so used to it, it's going to be a non-factor. So to those who think that it's killing the game inside and out, ridiculous. Everyone was just so quick to overreact over the spring training game that ended in a tie on a hitting violation.
Yeah,
Guys,
I saw that.
Yeah, guys, games aren't going to end in a tie during the regular season. One, and again, you'll get so used to it that it's just not going to be. It's not going to matter. Conveniently, people are going to overlook that the fact that the inning continued because of a misjudged fly ball. Was that because of the pitch timer? I think it's because a guy just didn't catch the ball, and also a pitching violation that went against the pitcher. Obviously, led to an extended at bat and eventually led to a walk. Over 300 pitches thrown in that game, probably. I don't know exactly how many, but to think that one pitching violation or something like that decided it, I'm not going to subscribe to that narrative. I simply won't do that. Again, I heard this in passing. I'll wrap it up with this. The same people that are, the fans that are complaining about this pitch timer the loudest are probably the fans that are going to watch all 162 games anyway. So again, focusing on the crazy amount of positives that we have coming out of this. I don't know. You should do that instead of the million what ifs that people are coming up with that aren't even close to happening. Simply just everyone calm down. I think everyone just calm down. Everyone will get used to it by the end of the spring training. I think we'll be okay. So I don't know if you share the same light on it, but I think that should be just take it easy. Take it easy. That's about it.
I mean, I have no idea watch much baseball at the moment. I'm on college basketball mode, just researching for March Madness. But I mean, people say it's like a different game. It's a whole different game just because of the pitch timer. But I don't know. I haven't bet on anything yet, so we'll see.
I would think that the new balk rule, the new way that pitchers are allowed to deliver pitches, and the throw to first rule, that's going to probably affect the game more than this pitch timer. Again, people are going to get used to a swing, a flow of a game. Like, they're flying by so fast, and I like that. I can't sit there for 4 hours just sitting on my ass. It's not, after a while, it just doesn't get entertaining as much of a sports hardo as I want to be. It's just, you can't sit there. I'll either be on my phone or something like that. So you gotta do something, and this is good. So get everyone in the flow of the game. And for those who, again, that are like, the broadcasters are bothering me or something like that, they need to be on their game too, because I'm listening to the game on the radio today. They're doing ads and stuff like that, and they're missing plays because they're going by so fast. They can't go on a tangent. So people like I don't know. I don't like Joe Buck, so when he calls the games, he can't be going off on a tangent. Or, I mean, I'm really big into Jason Benetti, but reading in on other pages, people don't like Jason Benetti as a commentator. So spin zone it any way you want to. It'll make commentators and broadcasters focus in and key in on games, and they won't be talking about, oh, back in my day, I used to do this. There won't be distractions like that. So I don't know. There's a ton of there's way more positives, I think, that have come out of this game than the negatives that everyone wants there to be in this so far. So
awesome. And for more of that, you can check out No Substitute for Sports, coming out Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
Yeah.
So basically, check it out. Thank you, Nick, and we'll catch up with you next week. Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on. Thank you. Take care.
All right, let's talk about the Bulls. The Bulls are back from All-Star break, and we have a bunch of news that just came out. This is just a quick recap. So last week, the Bulls organization said that Lonzo Ball is out for the season. That's a bummer because we've been waiting for him to come back from injury. The trainers don't know what's going on with that, but we'll see how that plays out next year, I guess, and we'll see how he heals. But Spin Zone, we did get a brand new player on the team. We picked up Patrick Beverly, Chicago native, from John Marshall High School. So here's how he got to Chicago Bulls. He was waived from the Lakers at the trade deadline on February 9th. He went to the Magic, and then he got waived. And on February 12th, after reaching a buyout, which cleared the waivers, he became a free agent, became a Bull. So ever since then, the Bulls have a little spark going, and I'm pumped. The last game that I watched, at least, a huge win. We won against the Nets. 131-87. Levine scored 32 points. Levine has low spark in him too. I guess the Bulls need a quick break. We had other contributing factors such as Vucevic and Drummond. They scored 13 points each and 10 rebounds, along with DeRozan and Patrick Williams, who scored 17 points each. Pat Bev was definitely the spark that was needed, and I feel like they need this to get to the playoff push. The Bulls, they currently sit 1.5 games in 10th place for the final play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. So I'm hoping this streak keeps going because the Bulls need that little push to get to the play-in spot. So yeah, we can't waste this season. I feel like this is something we got to push for. So keep on pushing. All right, now I want the Furious George to talk about the Bears and the Blackhawks. All right, now we have a very special guest. We have Furious George from the Shoot Your Shot Sports Network, also on the Full Press Bears podcast.
That was a really well said. Full Press Bears.
Yeah, I tried.
Bears. Yeah.
Bears. Welcome on. How's it going, man?
You? Oh, it's going well. Just, the typical Chicago sports team regular season and an off season where there's just a lot of disappointment, but I'm looking forward to breaking at least the Bears and the Blackhawks down for us.
Perfect. Let's start with the Blackhawks because they're more relevant at the moment. Patrick Kane. Let's talk about that. What's going on with that?
Yeah. So the Blackhawks, since the beginning of the season, really since the beginning of last season when Stan Bowman was forced to resign and Kyle Davidson took over as general manager, he's been on a mission of tearing down the team to the studs or even below the studs to do a full-blown rebuild. The Stan Bowman, the previous general manager, though lauded by many, filled the team with a lot of very bad contracts, high contracts, fully guaranteed, no trade clause contracts, and as a result, we saw Brent Seabrook traded for nothing. We saw Duncan Keith traded for nothing. Corey Crawford just walked for nothing, and now you're left with just the pieces of Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane, both who are their contracts end after this season. So the good outlook for the Hawks is that no matter what happens, you're getting money off the books after this season. But in those scenarios, you like, if you can, to obtain assets back for those guys if you're not planning on re-signing them. So the Hawks are in a state where they're not going to truly be competitive at minimum 3 more years. And you look at Taves, who I think is 34, and Kane, who's 33. Will they still be productive in 3 years? Taves, probably not. His health has been a big issue, and now he's been sidelined from the team, and now for the rest of the season, because of his long-term COVID effects and his his immune system deficiency. And then Patrick Kane, will he be productive in 3 years? I would say yes. He's still very highly productive as a player himself. But as a Hawks, for the Blackhawks, it's just a hard decision of, do you keep going forward with him as he is on a bad team, or do you get rid of him, try to get what you can back for him, and maybe if he's available later down the line, you can re-sign him if you wanted to, or you can just move on from this era. So all that said, it's been talked about to death since last offseason and this season especially. And within for the past 2 weeks, people have just been saying, oh, Patrick Kane is for sure going to the New York Rangers. And it's just funny because everyone's like, it's happening. It's a foregone conclusion. And my understanding is that it truly is a foregone conclusion. Like, this time next week he will be a New York Ranger, and he'll reunite with Artemi Panarin, and they'll be able to go on a. I'll be rooting for the Rangers. I'd like to see Kane go on a run. But stranger things have happened, and I'm not going to believe it's a done deal until I see it in writing. So, but that's the deal there. And my understanding as well is that the return is not going to be a quote unquote haul like some are expecting for a star like Patrick Kane. And that simply comes from the aspect that the Blackhawks don't have the leverage in this situation, because Kane has had one of his worst seasons in his career this year. And in addition, he is a free agent after this season. And he's expensive. So you're trading an expensive player whose contract ends at the end of the season, who's in his worst season in a while. And that adds up to not a lot of equity you're going to get back. That being said, my understanding I've heard as well is that it's not going to be like the Rangers totally fleece the Blackhawks. My understanding is the Blackhawks will get a few different draft picks, plus hopefully at least one central prospect in the deal, and probably like another player or two to add to the pot. So it won't be this amazing trade. The Rangers probably come out on top in that trade, but for a rebuilding team, you can just kind of take what you can get. So that's I guess that's kind of the long and short of the Patrick Kane situation. As far as the rest of the team, there had been a lot of talk this year that Max Domi was going to get traded, or Andreas Athanasiou was going to get traded. Both of them, there hasn't been any mention of them in trade talks. Just today, as we were talking before the show, we saw Sam Lafferty and Jake McCabe get traded. Jack Johnston was traded yesterday. There've been some other swapping of players and prospects. So Kyle Davidson's been busy, and he's set the Hawks up well for the future. For the next 3 seasons, the Hawks have 6 first-round picks. So each of the next 3 drafts, they have 2 first-round picks in each draft. And I want to say, I believe over the next 3 seasons, the Hawks have a total of, I think it's 14 or 15 picks in the first 3 rounds altogether. So he's really loaded up the talent, or the prospective talent, and I'm excited to see where it all goes from here.
I'm excited too. We have to start something new. I mean, Kane and Taves are getting pretty old, honestly. So it's just hard to see them leave, or at least Patrick Kane at least, but because the memories, but it's fine. I just have to let it go. It's cool.
It is hard to say goodbye to those guys. And I agree with you, especially Patrick Kane. He's had a longer run of success. He's on the precipice of surpassing Blackhawks team records, and to see him not be able to do that is kind of disappointing, especially knowing he has several years left. But looking at it from a team perspective, it's probably the smart move.
Yeah. It's hard for a fan to like digest that, I guess.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. And then I guess a little bit more optimism. The Bears, we had the first round pick. Let's move on to the Bears segue. What's going on in the offseason? Have you heard anything interesting about that outlook?
Yes. Yeah, so the Bears the Bears miraculously landed the first overall pick at the conclusion of the regular season, with the Texans defeating the Colts.
Shout out Lovie Smith.
That was obviously a huge news story. And since then, there's been 2 months of debate, basically, of what should the Bears do with the first overall pick. Should they trade Justin Fields and draft Bryce Young? Should they just stand pat and draft Will Anderson? Who should they draft? What should they do? And it took like a week for that discussion to get really tiresome and repetitive. And we seem to have been getting some more direction leaked, like little bit by little bit. During the Super Bowl media row week, Justin Fields was on multiple different shows, and when he was on Rich Eisen's show, Rich Eisen asked him if he would like to be included in the draft process, like be in the know on it. And Justin basically said, I would like that, and I have no knowledge of anything at this point. The next day, he's on a new show, and on that show, they ask him basically the same questions, and he says, yeah, I've been brought into the loop of what's going on. So people have connected the dots and said, okay, within a 12 hours notice or whatever, Ryan Poles reached out to Justin and was like, hey, I do want you. So people are taking that as a sign of, oh, he really is sending the message that Justin is the guy. And as far as further news from that, today, Adam Schefter reported that the Bears have said they are very likely to trade the first overall pick, which comes as a surprise to very few. I think we all kind of anticipated that. But what's really notable is that he said that they could be trading this pick as early as this week, which is during the NFL Combine. I find that unlikely because there's still almost 2 months of time before the draft takes place. But I guess it's encouraging to know that they're not shying away from putting it out on the market at this time. And the other piece of news he shared was he was asked about the idea of the Bears trading down multiple times in the first round, and Adam Schefter described it as a possibility and as a feeding frenzy. So I would guess in that scenario that would mean the Bears would trade down to either 2 or 4 with either the Texans or the Colts, and then possibly at whatever spot they trade down to at first, there would be this quote unquote feeding frenzy between the Raiders and the Panthers and the Falcons, and maybe a mystery team in there as well for that pick. So as far as the draft goes, the Bears are really set up quite well for all of this. Now, on the flip side, free agency, a lot of people have said, oh, well, they have the most cap space in the league and they can do whatever they want and sign whoever they want. And while that it might be true, the reality is that the free agent class is pretty disappointing, and it continues to get and it continues to develop that way because of the franchise tag. And so defensive players Bears fans wanted, like Darren Payne and what's his name? Hargrave. I can't remember his first name. But they're very likely to be franchise tagged, which will maintain them on the teams that they currently play for. And a lot of Bears fans who are counting on those players being available, you're looking at now even worse players that will become available. And it really leaves an interesting conundrum for the Bears because they spent so little last year that this year they have to spend a certain amount to reach the salary cap floor. And I don't fully understand the salary cap floor idea, but there's a certain percentage of money the team has to spend over a span of, I think, 3 to 5 years to reach a certain threshold to be like legal as the league has it set out. And I don't know exactly how far down the Bears are, but my understanding is they're pretty far underneath that floor, which means they're going to have to spend pretty big by force, not even because. And so the I guess the concern I have for the Bears is there's probably going to be overpaying of players for their quality, and that's a scary thing to do because what if you get a player that you really want in a year or two, and that money was now spent unwisely on these other players just to fill space? But I do think it lends credence. There's been some discussion about should the Bears sign Saquon Barkley. Assuming Saquon does not get tagged at 26, he is a bit of a risk as a running back. But if you're the Bears brass and you feel like he has the potential more of a Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry, or even Dalvin Cook in terms of availability and success, then it might be worth the gamble. And if you have to spend money anyway, you might as well throw a little bit his way as well. And I would say the same thing about Odell Beckham Jr., who's a free agent. And the last thing really just to say is it's hard to know what the trade markets could look like. Obviously, there's been a lot of trade rumors already about T. Higgins or DeAndre Hopkins, maybe others as well. That all just kind of remains to be seen what happens, but that would be another area the Bears could make up for this lack of spending that they have currently. So that's kind of my understanding of the Bears offseason to this point. And even though it is largely sunshine and roses, there's a little bit of shade creeping in terms of the free agency pool.
Interesting. I like that take because it's wild to think that like we have so much money and we could be spent wrong when I'm thinking like, oh, we could actually spend this money for something good. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, we'll see.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I say that is because they have to spend
exactly, yeah,
a certain amount. If they didn't have to meet a certain minimum, I would feel way better about this situation because I would trust Ryan Poles to say, hey, well, this defensive player is going to be franchise tagged this year, but this other one's going to be available next year. Let's just wait and use that money on this player next year or whatever. And I love that idea, but your cap situation is kind of hurting you in a reverse way where it's going to force you to spend more. Now, another rumor I saw today was that like the Rams are shopping Jalen Ramsey, supposedly.
I saw that, yeah.
And that would be another like option potentially. So, but anyway, that is my Bears and Blackhawks 5,
Recap.
6, 7 minute
Whatever.
recap.
Yeah.
So looking forward to, we'll have to do this again. Probably at the end of April would be great because
Definitely.
that'll be the end of the Blackhawks season, and that'll be after the NFL draft, and we can talk a little bit more about what these two teams are looking like moving forward.
Perfect. And then your podcast, Frustration Nation, is coming out when?
Yeah. So Frustration Nation, again, I'll be honest, I take the blame for it because of it's sometimes our listen, we have our newborn and I don't like to blame things on him, but he is a very cranky newborn with sleeping, and so it is very it's hit or miss on how things will go. And I've been sick lately. Michigan has had some other commitments, so we've been irregular, but they should start to be coming out. I'm hoping more weekly. I'm always hoping for more regularity. But regardless, you should check out the most recent episode called Clamation Nation, because I fulfill a bet that we had from the beginning of the season, which was I had picked the over on Bears wins, and he had picked the over on Lions wins, and whichever team went over, the other person had to do a challenge somehow involving that over. So for my bet, since the Lions did go over their 6-win total, I had to drink. Are you familiar with Clamato juice?
It's like what they use for like Bloody Marys and stuff, right?
Yes, and I've never had a Bloody Mary, and I've never wanted to have a Bloody Mary. They don't sound or look good to me.
They're actually really good.
Are they?
I love them because like when you're hungover, it's just like a little spicy. I don't know, it's good. I like it, but
well,
go on.
It didn't sound at all good to me, and I found at Walmart a Bud Light Chelada that was Bud Light mixed with Clamato juice, and it's disgusting. So if you want to hear the latest episode of me drinking that, check out episode. I don't even know what it is, but Clamation Nation is the name of that one.
That's awesome. Would you have made Michigan Hat do like pickle juice?
No. So actually, his goes back to a conversation he and I were having off the air over the summer. I had a story where I had went to Popeyes and ordered they had like a special 12-piece family meal. And so I went up there and I was just like, I'd like a 12-piece family meal with these sides. And they hand me the bag at the drive-thru and I'm like, man, this is heavy. I get home, they gave me 12 breasts. It wasn't 12 pieces, it was 12 chicken breasts.
Wow.
So like the heaviest cut you can get, the most chicken. And so I talked with him and he immediately was like, oh, I could put away like 4 or 5 of those, no problem. And I was like, I don't think you can. Like, it's hard enough to do 2 chicken breasts, let alone more than
And
2.
eat the whole thing because there's a lot of bones in. Like it's like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so what we had agreed on, and I'm really disappointed it didn't work out, was that for every win the Bears had beyond 6, the Bears had to get more than 6 wins. For every win they had, he was going to have to eat a Popeyes chicken breast in like one sitting. So if the Bears had 8 wins, he was going to have to eat 8 Popeyes chicken breasts. And it would have been hilarious because he probably would have barfed, but
Yeah.
it didn't happen. But regardless, the episode's funny. You want to check it out. We're going to record later tonight as well, a short one, and we'll get that out as well. So thanks for listening, Frustration Nation, Full Press Bears. And yeah, thanks for having me on, Richie.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.